Right, question 5. Electricity can be generated using various energy sources. Give one advantage and one disadvantage of using nuclear power stations rather than gas-fired power stations. Let's think before we do anything. What do we know about nuclear? What do we know about gas? Well, nuclear, are they good? So no CO2. Oh, chemist will tell me off. There we go. No CO2 is an advantage. Disadvantage of our nuclear is going to be long startup times. You could have the chance of meltdown, I suppose. But the real thing is that it produces radioactive waste. So there are advantages and disadvantages compared to a gas-fired. So gas-fired do produce CO2, so that is definitely an advantage. And gas-powered do not produce radioactive waste. So yeah, that would work as a comparison. So let's go with that. So advantage, so no CO2 is produced. And a disadvantage is radioactive waste is produced. The long startup time one would have worked too, because gas power stations have a very quick startup time, whereas a nuclear power station takes about a couple of days to start up. So that would have been fine. But I've gone for those two. No CO2. It's always, if you're ever looking at compare something against a fossil fuel, does it produce CO2? It's always the one to go for. And radioactive waste is generally, if you're going to talk about nuclear, it's the radioactive waste that we're concerned about. Okay, we've got a calculation. Let's have a look at this. Let's get the numbers. So 2 million watts is going to be a power. Correct unit, yep. The wind turbine operates for 6 hours. All right, so 6 hours, that's going to be a time. Probably going to need to convert that. Calculate the energy output. Oh, in kilowatt hours. Okay. It's important that we read the question before we jump to conclusions then. So, if it's in kilowatt hours, that means that that time is absolutely fine, but the power is the one that needs converting. So the power needs to be in kilowatts. Kilo means 1,000. This one's in watts, so we're going to divide that by 1,000. So we'll do 2 million divided by 1,000. It's going to give us our kilowatts. So let's do that. 2 million. 6 zeros, just check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Over 1,000 is 2,000. So we've actually got 2,000 kilowatts. Okay, calculate the energy output. So we want a formula. We can actually use the units of kilowatt hours. So we're times in our power times by time, but we better check. So we've got a power, and we've got a time, and we want an energy. Power, time, and we want an energy. Okay, again, there's one here. Power is energy divided by time, so we could use that. But we're trying to find the energy, so we're going to use this one at the bottom here. Energy transferred equals power times time. So energy equals power times by time. We have got, let's input these values. Energy is going to be equal to 2,000 kilowatts times by 6 hours. We don't need to rearrange, and we've already done the conversion. So our answer is going to be 2,000 times by 6. It's going to be 12, isn't it? But let's just check. It's 12,000 kilowatt hours. Why, on average, do wind turbines operate at maximum capacity for only 30% of the time? And what do we know about wind turbines? The main disadvantage of wind turbine is they are they're unreliable. They only produce energy, not energy, they only produce electricity when windy. Or if the wind's too strong, they can't operate then either, so they're unreliable. An onshore wind farm is made up of many individual wind turbines. They are connected to the national grid using underground power cables. Give one advantage of using underground power cables rather than overhead power cables. A couple of ideas here. So, overhead power cables, when you've got you've got your pylons and they connect the power cables over there, is that they look ugly. People don't like living next to pylons so much. So that's one, and the other one is that this type of setup with the pylons and the cables is easily damaged by storms. Whereas if the cable's underground, they're not going to get damaged by storms and strong winds. So we can go with either one of those. So I'm going to go with less likely to be damaged by strong winds. But you could have also had that they're nicer to look at if they're underground than they are if they're in the pylons. Okay.